In the coming days, there will be complaints from the globalists and the outsourcers and special interests and the fake news. Always, the fake news will always complain. But never forget, every prediction our opponents made about trade for the last 30 years has been proven totally wrong. They were wrong about NAFTA. They were wrong about China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate that, United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. You would have had no jobs. It was all going to other countries.
President Trump has selected his new federal prosecutor for L.A. Sources tell KCAL News he's Republican State Assemblyman Bill ESSAYLI from Corona. ESSAYLI will be sworn in tomorrow as the U.S. Attorney for Los Angeles. He's been in the State Assembly for the past 3 years. Before that, he worked as a federal prosecutor in L.A., and he began his career as a prosecutor for Riverside County. ESSAYLI has played a prominent role in the culture wars rocking school districts across the state. He is a vocal supporter of parental notification policies, which require educators to inform parents if their children identify as transgender.
I recently asked my friend's little girl what she wanted to be when she grows up. She said she wanted to be the President of the United States. Both of her parents, liberal Democrats, were standing there. So I asked her, if you were president, what would be the first thing you would do? Well, she replied, I'd give food and houses to all the homeless people. Her parents beamed. Wow, what a worthy goal, I told her. But you don't have to wait until you're president to do that. You see, you can come over to my house right now and you can mow the lawn, pull weeds, and sweep my driveway, and I'll pay you $50. Then I'll take you over to the grocery store where that homeless guy hangs out, and you can give him the $50 to use toward food and a new house. She thought that over for a few seconds, then she looked me straight in the eye and asked, why doesn't the homeless guy come over and do the work and you can just pay him the $50? I said, welcome to the Republican Party. Her parents are still not speaking to me.
President Obama absolutely did not think that Joe Biden should continue, according to our sources close to President Obama. And he also didn't want Kamala Harris to be the replacement for Biden. He didn't think that she was the best choice for Democrats. And he worked really behind the scenes for a long time to try to have a mini primary or an open convention, or a mini primary leading to an open convention.
Heading the fight in California, San Diego County Supervisor and California congressional candidate Jim Desmond. Jim, this is a very important story and seems like sort of the next fight at the border, at least there in Southern California. What exactly is happening?
Well, this is one of the biggest environmental and public health crises going on in our region. And primarily it's because Tijuana, which has outgrown its capacity to handle the sewage that they produce, they put it into the Tijuana River, which is a big channelized river that runs through Tijuana, and it empties out across the border. It comes into our estuary on our side of the border, polluting our beaches. Surfers can't surf. Even our U.S. Navy SEALs have been getting sick. And so this is something that is a binational issue that we have to address.
Javier Becerra, are you running for governor of California?
Alex, all goes well, I will be the next governor of our great state.
So you are running for governor.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove, 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 40%.
Hi, my name is Ben Hudson. I'm a community organizer. I'm like second or 22nd generation queer. Some of you are as well. You know, you need to decide what kind of California you want to live in. I already decided what.
What's interesting about it is you heard anytime anybody brings this up, a Republican will say, well, what about J.B. Pritzker, and what about George Soros, and what about this, what about that? And I guess the answer is you don't see George, first of all,
George Soros
you don't see them out there talking.
No.
Right? I mean, they might be giving money to organizations, this and that, and people can criticize that if they want. But the idea that like, oh no, I am going to tell these voters, forget like hiring Scott Walker to do it or somebody on the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm going to tell them.
Right. No, it's.
There's that funky slide guitar music. It comes in every Monday through Friday, live at, oh, we're a little bit earlier than 5. Evil Up You Nowhere, Grumble X, YouTube. Still think we're on there, waiting to get kicked off, as we usually do on that Liberation Day, April 2nd, 2025, declared by Donald J. Trump. He laid out the case for the tariffs and of two things. Either they're temporary tariffs or we're going to replace the income tax or whatever. I'm fine with it as long as it's not going to increase revenue to the federal clowns and the bureaucracy. Lord knows we've been hosed. I know we'll delve deeper into that subject a little later on. Maybe when Susan Shelley comes on, she should be on at in about a little less than an hour, around 5:30-ish. Bill ESSAYLI. This is a happy and sad moment. Bill ESSAYLI, who's been, well, a little over 2 years. 2 years and what, 3 or 4 months? Assemblyman out here in the Inland Empire, mainly Corona, Woodcrest, in there down into Lake Elsinore, in that area. Absolutely champion. I don't know if there's one thing I've disagreed with on Bill ESSAYLI since he's been in the Assembly and before. And we were with him in 2016 when he first ran against Sabrina Cervantes. Back then, when I first came on the radio, and we've had him on. That's about the time I first come across him, 9 years ago. Stand-up guy on the right side of every issue. Champion actually came down to the Riverside Unified School District and asked for Renee Hill to resign. Well, she's retiring, along with Leticia Castillo, our newest member out here in the IE, in the Assembly. He's had guts enough to say it like it is. Stand up to Corey Jackson and the rest of them and Rivas and everyone else that tried shutting him down at the Assembly, wouldn't let him speak, wouldn't let him introduce his bills, wouldn't let him talk. Just like Rivas wouldn't talk to Ashley Zavala after the vote in the girls' sports, and we got some more on that today, more videotape. Maybe we'll get to it with Newsom. Boy, is he trying to shuck and jive this whole deal. We'll delve into that here in a few. Obama rips Kamala. And on, well, he didn't, new book out on PMSNBC on Morning Joe and Mika, of all places, is been absolutely stunning. Some of the things that we are seeing out there. But we really need to buckle down on a lot of this stuff. Let's roll through and get my handy-dandy deal up there. We'll roll through some of the locale news. on that, let's see which screen, magic screen this is on. Yes, here we go. Banning man pleads guilty to sexual assault of a disabled woman. It's been going on for a few years. He finally pled guilty. 5 years. Someone who is mentally challenged, we used to say mentally retarded, of that. This guy finally pled guilty. Renee Linnell Robles Sonera, of that. Man, it's something else. We're remembering the slain Riverside police officers, Leonard Christensen and Paul Teal, who were killed 54 years today in brutal ambush killings. That was 1971. You think the race stuff is going on now? It's tiddlywinks. Tiddlywinks compared to what was going on there. I lived through this, and there's some backstory that I lived through on this that probably hasn't been told a lot. Maybe we'll get into that one day. But in a roundabout way, like I said, I've had a unique life. In a roundabout way, there were some overtones that went in, and I'm aware of and seen in the aftermath of the killings and what went on there. But that was, man, that rocked our community. Gary Lawton got off on the Miranda deal, admitted he confessed to doing it, but walked. A lot of things, man. This area is flat interesting, if nothing else, as they say. Joshua Allen Fordham, 51, allegedly shot by his father-in-law, Richard Allen Parker, 83, in Fontana. Kind of sketchy details coming in on that, or what was going on, but hopefully we'll follow up and get some more info on that story. But that was something else. Lake Elsinore man arrested for a 2007 Moville murder homicide. Vincent Gonzalez, as you see with his nice little tattoos, was arrested for a murder that happened on Sunnymead Boulevard 19 years ago in Moville, where a 15-year-old was killed on that. So good job for Riverside investigators, sheriff deputies, digging up that cold case. Cops return a pup to its owners. A Bloomington couple was sitting in a park, and somebody said, "Oh, you want to pet your nice dog?" And they ran off with it. The cops sprung into action and fortunately found the pup and returned it to its owners. So good deal there. And I think they arrested the two on that. Vegas to Barstow shooting spree. Started in Vegas, wound up going in Barstow with some shootouts all along the way on that. And of course, the Donald J. Trump appointing, well, he's an interim basis because he has to be confirmed, but I'm sure he will. Taps Bill ESSAYLI for the Los Angeles, Southern California United States Attorney. So that catches you up on some of the happenings in local news that we posted on IE Newswire. Hopefully we're going to make IE Newswire your go-to source for the real news that's going on. Not the fluff or the this and, where do you get your manicure done, or I don't know, what type of contact paper you put in your cabinets or any of that. Don't ask me. I have no clue. But we're going to be really cranking up on the local scene in the news, along with the national and the state stuff for that, because I think there's a void in our area of getting real news and what's going on in the old hood out here in the IU. Man, we are the redheaded stepchild by far. We get ignored. I mean, unless it's unless it's really sensational, we don't get covered by the LA stations and or national of that. It's really kind of intriguing sometimes of how this old noise works, but we'll soldier on. See if we can, oh, there it is. No, maybe it's down this way. Yeah, we'll talk more about that. Natasha Johnson, I don't know if she's mayor or city council. I think we've had her on the show once or twice back in the day. She's had already announced that she is running for the assembly seat that Bill ESSAYLI resigned from last night. It's another interesting tidbit of information coming on right out of the gate. We'll see if Newsom, I think, and don't quote me on this today, but I think we can, or think he can appoint someone to that seat while calling for a special election so he could put a interim one in. ESSAYLI and Sheriff Chad have already endorsed her, so I imagine there was already some conversations before ESSAYLI took the job as U.S. Attorney for SoCal out here, because the announcement came boom the next day on that. I guess she's council member. They have a rotating deal on mayor. But from what I can tell, what I've seen her positions, I think she will make a fine assembly member of that. We'll see who else wants to jump in the ring on that, but that's one candidate to take, I believe, take a very close look at in that race, because that's it's a seat we will hold. It would be almost, it's what, a plus 20 Republican registration, whoever the Republican nominee is. Just so we got to don't have 27 Republicans win and have 2 Democrats get in the runoff and they take over the seat like they did District 4 in the Senate seat. So let's play it smart. Don't need 27 candidates running. If Natasha is the one, then let's go for it. Hopefully, you're going to have some big, as they say, the old cliche, you're going to have big shoes to fill. ESSAYLI was about as I can remember, probably the best assembly member I've had since Steve Clute. And that goes way back, that goes to the 70s and into the very early 80s. I'm going to say ESSAYLI by far is the best one we've had out here in the IE. So we'll see how this all shakes out. I imagine, I don't know, haven't talked to ESSAYLI. I imagine there is something Pacific, could be the immigration ICE thing, could be an Adam Schiff deal, or who knows, maybe this girl's in sports, maybe it's drill baby drill. I believe there's something Trump especially wants the U.S. Attorney's Office in Southern California to take over or to look into and possibly straighten out. I think, not 100% positive, but I think that's what the deal was I think this deal was discussed about 2 months ago when Rick Grinnell introduced ESSAYLI to Trump after Trump came out here and had the meeting on the LA fires. I think we had the pictures of that up here on IE Newswire when that happened a couple months ago. So I think that's when the talks really started in earnest about getting ESSAYLI in as U.S. attorney, and hear what it is a couple months later. Bam, here he is of that. Again, we got to get a good candidate to run for the 63rd Assembly District. If Natasha Johnson's it, then let's go for it. She's already announced. ESSAYLI and Chad Bianco have endorsed her, so there we go. Brian, things are looking good here. Things are looking much in the last 3 or 4 months. Not only across the nation, across the world, California, even in the Inland Empire, things are looking good. When have we had, I don't know that we've had a Inland Empire guy appointed U.S. attorney for the Southern California region. It's usually either been in LA, Orange County, or San Diego, dude. We finally got one of our guys in, thanks to Donald J. Trump. So hopefully this all works out. We'll get ESSAYLI in the U.S. Attorney's Office, and it's Natasha Johnson or whomever at the rest of it in the Assembly. Then we got to build. It's critical, and I know a lot of you guys want to jock the top end of the spectrum. And I know a lot of people are just a gaga over Sheriff Chad, and that's fine. If we don't start winning more Assembly seats, we need to take out Corey Jackson. Carl DeMaio, 75th Assemblyman, I think, down in San Diego. He's already said he's the latest one Corey Jackson's threatened on the House floor, or on the Assembly floor. He's ready to go for it and get rid of Corey Jackson. Again, we've got to have a great candidate to facilitate this. Love Ron Edwards and Hector Diaz. I don't know if it's in the cards for those guys to make it. And it's probably not no fault of their own, but there's a lot of factors that go into this. I hope Sheriff Chad, Riverside Sheriff's Association, and I'm going to say this point blank, will get their head out of their ass. And this time, let's put up a great candidate against Corey Jackson and get him out of political office. 4 years is way too much of a reign of terror here, especially in Moreno Valley, Paris, San Jacinto, parts of Hemet, Nuevo, Romoland, and all those good areas. Talk about 4 years of torture. We had this whole deal. Remember when, everybody's going, hey, we know Joe's lost it mentally. Can't handle the job. Needs to go. It's and we had the whole house with it. He did the debate with Trump. Trump just had to stand there and go. Then the drumbeat, Nancy, Obama, Chuck Schumer, and as the surrogates, intermediaries between the establishment say, Joe's got to go. Whether Barack wanted Big Mike or whomever to run, he did not want Kamala to run. That's coming out in a new book by Jonathan Allen and Amy Parnes. John is on PMSNBC, of all places, Mika and Joe. And he said this.
Absolutely did not think that Joe Biden should continue, according to our sources, close to President Obama. And he also didn't want Kamala Harris to be the replacement for Biden. He didn't think that she was the best choice for Democrats. And
He didn't think Barack Obama, the Messiah, the one all you white guilt, all you neurotic white chicks, or you can't gotta vote for him. He's black. Went through 8 years of hell, and then you finally come to the conclusion, well, he was a dope too. Didn't think Kamala Harris had the stuff to be president. Duh. Everybody. Whether they have admitted to it publicly, they will in private. She is a dope. She is a bitch. She is one of the most difficult people to deal with, work with, do anything with. She's a total epitome of narcissistic, witch, my blank don't stink attitude, you gotta bow down to me person there has ever been. More from John Allen.
he worked really behind the scenes for a long time to try to have a mini primary or an open convention or mini primary leading to an open convention. Did not have faith in her ability to win the election. So
he did not have faith in Comrade Kamala's ability to win the election. Well, with that, one of the few times I've agreed with Obama, and she proved that. The Democratic Party proved that. We know she couldn't win the election, just like Hillary couldn't win it in 2016. Donald J. has a distinction, the only person in recorded history has defeated 2 female Democratic candidates for president. There's, as the old saying, there's no there. You know, you could even work around the attitude stuff if she was let's say she was a Mensa member. Highly intelligent, could get stuff done, maybe has a crappy attitude. Okay, I can deal with that. Most people can. I'm not asking her to be your friend, not asking her to come to your church or ice cream social. Just want whomever be president. That's why Trump works. No matter what you think of him personally, he gets the job done.
And as it turned out, she didn't win, but he was really working against her. In one moment, he had set up a phone call with Congressman Clyburn from South Carolina on the day that Joe Biden handed off the baton to Kamala Harris. And Obama had set up a call with Clyburn for like 5:30 that afternoon. And Clyburn thought to himself, this guy's going to try to rope me into the open convention thing. I better get my endorsement of Harris out there fast so that this is a short conversation.
You heard it here when that whole thing went down. When they basically put the edict to old slow Joe, hey, your time is over. And they were floating. Schumer, Pelosi, and Obama were there. Okay, we're going to have, what do we want to do? We have an open convention, a mini convention, da-da-da-da. And Biden basically said, yeah. When he made his statement, he says, yeah, and I endorse Kamala Harris for president. As we said, that was Biden saying a big FU, not only to Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer, but that was the whole main establishment, the Jamie Dimons, the Klaus Schwabs, the George Soroses of the world, the Zelenskys. He was giving them the big middle finger. Says, okay, you're going to force me out. I'm going to force Kamala on you. And he did. Joe Biden is very vindictive, and he doesn't forget. And he said, okay, this is going to be my parting shot to you. You're going to get Kamala whether you like it or not.
So that's, and when Harris talked to Obama on the day that Biden handed off to her, Obama was unwilling to give his endorsement then.
That was, remember, as it said, it took Obama 5 days after that. They were still trying to stop the Harris Democratic nomination momentum. He's still almost a week. He tried to work on that. So when you want to call racist or all this other crap that everybody tries to throw around, what? And I've said the biggest racist is right there, Barack Obama. With Laura Bush and the whole crew over there. No, you ain't going to have a black woman for president. Basically what he said and what he worked for. And now it's coming out on the record. This is the New York Post headline. Barack Obama was working against Kamala Harris behind the scenes, didn't think she could win in a new book. Former President Barack Obama reportedly advocated against Democrats nominating Kamala Harris in the wake of President Joe Biden dropping out of the election because Obama didn't think Harris could win, according to a new book. It's stunning. He was Barack Obama against Kamala Harris. And he was right, because she has no talent. Well, she has a couple of talents. No political talent. No governance talent. But as they say, the truth eventually comes out. So no matter what is going on, be sure to make an honest assessment as best you can, unfiltered, take in everything that's going on, and then come to a conclusion. We knew Kamala didn't have it. And it's a good thing because, as close as the votes were, it wasn't a given Trump was going to win. Trump winning against a strong Democrat candidate would have been a much tougher race. I'm saying he couldn't have won, but would have been a much tougher race. Kamala made it about as easy as it could be in 2024. And one thing we got to thank Joe for is he made that possibility. Remember when he put on the MAGA hat or the Trump hat? This might be why maybe a sub reason why ESSAYLI was appointed U.S. attorney. Mexico has been dumping their raw sewage Salton Sea into the beaches down in San Diego, making them unusable, polluted, everything else. Maybe he wants ESSAYLI to use the Southern California U.S. Attorney's Office to go after Mexico over this. This has been going on far too long. Here again is Jim Desmond, San Diego County Supervisor. Here we go. We thought. Here we go.
Supervisor and California congressional candidate Jim Desmond. Jim, this is a very important story and seems like sort of the next fight at the border, at least there in Southern California. What exactly is happening?
Well, this is one of the biggest environmental and public health crises going on in our region. And primarily it's because Tijuana, which has outgrown its capacity to handle the sewage that they produce, they put it into the Tijuana River, which is a big channelized river that runs through Tijuana, and it empties out across the border. It comes into our estuary on our side of the border, polluting our beaches. Surfers can't surf. Even our U.S. Navy SEALs have been getting sick. And so this is something that is a binational issue that we have to address for San Diego area. This has been going on for decades, and people have been getting sick. Our beaches have been closed. Tourism is getting hurt, and
that's something that's got to get shut off. 1,432%. As Tijuana's grown, gotten bigger, like everything else, they've been dumping this stuff. They're ruining some of the best beaches down in San Diego, and some of the best, San Diego, one of the best climates, everything else. You know, if Mexico had 3 brains down there, Tijuana could be obviously like San Diego. Instead of the S-hole, it is. So this is a tale of two countries, tale between socialism, communism, totalitarian dictators, and the free market. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Just go from Chula Vista to Mexico. It's something that we've got to take care of. Even though Alex Michelson is a highly paid, probably Fox News anchor, does the news on, I think, 6 and 11 or something with Marla Tellez. He's worse at names than I am. Like I said, I can butcher names. So I got a premium butcher skill in destroying somebody's name. But I can't say this one. Javier Baccaria was our former Attorney General, and Biden appointed him Health and Human Services, where Bobby Kennedy is, during the COVID deal, of all things. That's how competent this guy is. Tries wrecking our country, making it our state, making it unsafe. He was in charge of the COVID con, or one of the principals in it, in the Biden administration. That's where the Javier Baccaria comes from. That's what Biden introduced him at. Oh, I appointed his Health and Human Services is more appropriate at that time, till we got Bobby in there. Javier Baccaria. Here he is announcing that he's running for governor. Holy cow.
Becerra, are you running for governor of California?
Alex, all goes well, I will be the next governor of our great state.
So you are running for governor.
Javier Becerra gives us the first TV interview of his campaign. From 1993 to 2017, he represented Southern California in the House. In 2017, he became California's Attorney General, suing President Trump 120 times. In 2021, President Biden appointed him the U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services during the height of COVID.
It is time to fight for the California dream.
Becerra
A guy that's destroyed not only the American dream, but the California dream and everything else he's touched, fouled up COVID, Health and Human Services. He thinks he's going to be governor of the state of California. Well, he could be if we don't get the stupid out of us. Don't say you never say never on anything, especially in Politico. It's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be interesting to see if a Grinnell or a Caruso jumps in this thing. Nicole Shanahan said she's out. There's 13 Democrats of all, like these guys. Nobody hardly knows who they are. Kamala's the one big stick in the whole thing because at least, she's got name recognition. But maybe this little book coming out and the revelation of Obama is a preemptive strike of her not running for governor. There was a lot of bad blood amongst the Democrats sans 2021 to the beginning of 25. They may be they may put on the dog that they care about you, and they're the meanest, most radical, don't care, would sell you down the river for a wooden nickel or a $3 bill if they thought they could get 1/10 of a cent of benefit out of it. But he's the same as a politician who's been at it for 30 years, same cliches. Oh, I feel your pain and all the whole rhetoric. Oh, I was HHS under COVID. Oh, yeah. Spreading all the lies and government propaganda and trying to shut us up who were trying to tell the freaking truth. This one is why we have hope. For a couple different reasons. We'll put some analysis in it. Here's Harry Ennin on CNN, their head guy that reads you the polls that CNN is trying to shove down your throat. If they're coming out with this, it's bad news on a couple of fronts for Democrats. Here we go.
Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to this side of the screen. We'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Horrible, horrible, horrible. The words of Harry Entin. And there's two reasons for that. It's not all that they hate the Democratic Party. There's probably half of them. They're thinking, okay, there are a bunch of Looney Tunes on this, the whole transgender thing, boys and men in women's and girls sports, and the whole, just suspending the mean rhetoric and everything else. The high gas prices, high food prices, the inflation. Okay, that's about half the Democrats. But the other half of the Democrats in this, because all the ones that are disapproved are not of one monolithic or even close political outlook, philosophy, or why they're giving the rats the low approval numbers. You got the other half that think the AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, the Pocahontases, Cory Booker, Jasmine Crockett aren't going far enough. Down the road is stupid. They want more transgender. They want all kids. They want all, before they get out of high school, all the girls with their breasts chopped off, all the boys with their penises chopped off. They want a robot society, much easier to control. Much easier that we got 98.7% of the mental health. These ding-dongs over here only got 1.3. And they're going to be very grateful we gave them the 1.3. Slave. They want you to be the slave and look to them as the slave master.
Well, oh my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this. If Democratic voters have turned on Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party, that's what puts the numbers at historic lows. What is it they want to be seeing, these voters?
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, because take a look at the direction of the party. Democratic voters on Democrats in Congress doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at this, 77%. Should stay principled, even if it means nothing gets done in Washington, D.C., 65%. And this 65% is such a difference from where we were in 2017 at this point, when just 33% of Democrats say they should stay principled, compared to 59% who said they want to compromise. Democrats do not want compromise at this point. They want a fighter. They want to go into the ring like Muhammad Ali did against Sonny Liston. They want to take down the Republicans. They do not want this compromise anymore. They want to be more like Republicans, get up to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply put.
This is like with the book Tom Del Beccaro wrote 10 or so years ago, The Divided Era. That's what our politics is. Our politics is not about this. That's what the deeper meaning or the rest of the story behind the chart, the poll here, and the results. We don't care if you defeat Trump. We don't like Trump. Everything he does must be defeated. Doesn't matter if it's good for us, bad for us, in between. Just oppose, oppose, oppose. That's how they control you. They keep you broke enough, starved enough, that anybody that will get you out of that situation, they're going to have you crush them.
But not doing so, and that is why their approval rating for congressional Democrats is at an all-time low, even among Democrats with more disapproving than approving.
Yeah, it seems that these Senate Democrats, some of them are banking on the idea that there is still a political middle, as it were. We will see. We will see.
But we will see if there's a political middle, but at this point, count me skeptical that that is at least what the Democratic base wants at this point. It's going to be very interesting, John, to see moving forward whether or not there are any repercussions come 2026, because I bet there may be some coming.
Harry M., thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
Sarah?
I feel like the most shocking part of that was how you dipped down and you were able to get back up without hearing any creaking or cracking.
Well, Missy, if you lose a few pounds, maybe you wouldn't be creaking yourself. I'm going to have something to say about it. I found going through my mom and dad's house, we'll roll this out, but the end's right. I mean, he's reading it the same way I'm reading that poll. It isn't the Democrats right now would cut off their right leg. Perfectly good functioning leg. Just because. Well, I just don't like it anymore. It's the same thing like we talked about the transgender, especially with kids and everything. Young teenagers. Or anybody. Just saw off from a human being. Perfectly good functioning body parts. No cancer. No gangrene. No nothing. Perfectly good functioning body parts. Well, I just don't like them. I'm sawing them off. That's how we get to this ridiculousness. That you're seeing here. I want to talk a little bit about the elections yesterday, too, in Florida, held the seats. Both Florida 1 and Florida 6 were about 15 point, about 50, almost exactly 57-42. Trump won them by more margin. Reading way too much into it. You know, they lost, the Democrat liberal 55-45 won the Wisconsin Supreme Court. You know, and that might cost us a couple Republican seats in 26 in the House, but we'll see. Because they'll be in charge of redistricting, and you know they'll gerrymander it times 10. But the one they didn't talk, you run on CNN, it was all the liberal Supreme Court defeated the conservative. Isn't that? And Musk is this, and nobody likes Elon, and this is a referendum on blah, 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 blah. They didn't tell you. Because if you're on the center-right side, you won 3 of the 4. Obviously, the 1, 2, and 3 are fairly easy. The 2 Florida seats you won, lost the Supreme Court. Didn't talk about voter ID passing in Wisconsin by what, 60+%? Voter ID. So we won. 3 out of 4. Yet they're trying to spin, the Democratic left is trying to spin it as, oh, it's over for Trump. It's over for the center right. It's over for the Republicans. We did better in the congressional seats. You spent, what, $30 million in the 2 seats? And you still couldn't come within 15 points? In a special election where if money or anything grassroots has a much bigger play because you got such a small turnout. You can turn out your vote. You can have some big surprises in special elections. They couldn't even get it done. Crowed about the $20 million Musk spent on Schmiel. Didn't say nothing about Soros and the crew spending $50 million. Probably of your money, as we're finding out, as Elon's pointing out, and the crew at Doge. Nothing about those all toys. Musk spent $20 million in influence in this, and people are trying to shut up. Another one, again on CNN. It's not about the truth. It's not about, hey, we want to get the money out of politics or these guys have too much influence. Oh, if there are guys, that's fine. If they're your guys, our guys don't have to follow the rules. Your guys do. Do unto others before they do unto me. Or the golden rule, he who has all the gold makes the rules. Stunning revelation came out on CNN. Here we go.
Go on about saving humanity. It's just an ego trip.
Well, what's interesting about it is you heard anytime anybody brings this up, a Republican will say, well, what about J.B. Pritzker and what about George Soros and what about this, what about that? And I guess the answer is you don't see George, first of all,
George Soros in
you don't see them out there talking.
No.
Right? I mean, they might be giving money to organizations, this and that, and people can criticize that if they want. But the idea that like, oh no, I am going to tell these voters, forget like hiring Scott Walker to do it or somebody on the Milwaukee Bucks, I'm going to tell them.
Right. No, he has to suck up all the oxygen. He is only one of the...
Oh, just because Soros or whomever is laundering the money, our money to them. At least Musk's made the money himself with his companies and his production. Tesla, SpaceX, whatever. These guys are stealing your tax money, laundering it through Zelensky's wars and every other goofy stuff, condoms in Guatemala or whatever. studying why cats have sex with each other or other stupid stuff. But Elon, he spent 20 million. They didn't say he got outspent 2.5 times to 1. It's incredible. They didn't say once. I listened to a lot of it. I didn't hear them once say voter ID was approved by the biggest margin of anything that happened last night. We get back to paper ballots, same day election. You will see a sea change in this country like you've never seen before. We maybe even have a chance in California to make some big gains into some sensible policies. You know, if we can get down to that and just reduce 40% of the election fraud, it becomes a whole different ballgame. I'm sure that's another reason why ESSAYLI's being appointed U.S. Attorney for the SoCal area. I'm sure the whole voting thing, because with the edict Trump's put out like this, is basically what Wisconsin passed. Federal elections, paper ballot, same-day voting on federal elections. States and locals can do their own thing, but then they're going to have to pay for or have separate. If they're going to send everybody mail-in ballots like California, they might be able to do it for the state and local offices. Then they'll have to have a special deal. You only U.S. citizens. Well, then they're going to have to figure out, that's going to trip their trigger. Now they got to try and go back and identify everybody, 22 million people in California registered to vote, whether you're a citizen or not. Oh, that'll thin the rolls out big time. Probably, that right there would probably take you down to about 16, 17 million. I'm going to say 5 or 6 million right off the top of the registered voters are probably not citizens of the United States. It's going to be, as they say, a very interesting ride. But again, a lot of positives coming out. When you win 3 of 4, now you got ESSAYLI in the U.S. Attorney's Office.
40 seconds, 40 seconds.
Hopefully we get a good candidate like Natasha Johnson or someone to replace him. We start straightening out the voter rolls and get our taxation under control and all the stupid stuff in our elections semi-honest. You'll see a renaissance. It will definitely be Liberation Day, as Trump declared today, April 2nd, 2025. We'll come back on the flip side on the Mighty Met 1490 with Susan Kelly.
5 seconds, here we go.
Yes, he said. We'll be right back.
IE Newswire data is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Expressed and not necessarily
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday live at 5:30 on the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire in the aforementioned AM band. Join your vast video audience on the Evil Epi Network, Rumble, X, even YouTube. Check us out, subscribe, do all that good stuff on that. Bill ESSAYLI resigned his assembly seat because Donald Trump appointed him U.S. Attorney for the SoCal area of that. Well, we hate to see him go out of the assembly. Maybe this is bigger and better and more important things ESSAYLI needs to comment on. Natasha Johnson, councilwoman from Lake Elsinore, endorsed by ESSAYLI and Chad Bianco today to replace him. We'll see how that works out in the next few weeks and months. Of that, Donald Trump declared this Liberation Day, rolled out the tariffs, the reciprocal tariffs, and all that. Something that we got to figure out here in California, too. Jim Desmond pointed out Mexico has been dumping their sewage, ruining Salton Sea, from the Salton Sea to the San Diego beaches. It's about time that crap stops. Lock, stock, and barrel. Obama finally come out, worked against, said Kamala's a dope. She can't run for president. She's going to lose. On that part, like nuclear power, one of the few things I've agreed with Barack Hussein Obama, on that. I told you he's the biggest racist we've ever had as president. Hates black women. Says they're not smart enough. Misogynist, evil, all that other stuff. Prove me wrong. A lot of other interesting facts and tidbits coming out all across the board, as we usually do, and say, but as we usually do on a Monday, we have the famed editorial writer, columnist for Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts. More important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to IE Newswire with Roy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
Do you feel liberated today on Liberation Day?
Tariff Liberation Day, Trade Liberation Day, I feel free, yes.
It is. I mean, it's apropos. And there's two things. This is my philosophy. I'm fine with the tariffs if we're going to go back to pre-1913, when basically the federal government was funded by tariffs. We had no income tax, all that stuff. And or we're using them to get us out of the GATT, WTO, all these ridiculous trade agreements that they are the non-free trade agreements that we got involved in the last 30 years on that. Or we're using them to eliminate the income tax, tax on tips, everything else. Whichever way, and I think ultimately tariffs is probably a better way to fund the government than an income tax, because you get to keep your money and then you can decide. You have more of a decision to make on how you buy products than them taking it before you even earn it or before you even get your hands on it. So I want to see how it all shakes out, but as long as that is the philosophy of where we're going, I'm perfectly fine with it. What say you, Susan Shelley?
Well, I have to say that I really trust President Trump's judgment on this. I did not feel that way about any of the previous presidents in recent history, but I think he really has a strategic plan in mind to restore American jobs and American manufacturing and American national security, and to reverse some of these terrible missteps that have happened in really the last 20 years and before. Since 9/11, for sure, we've had a lot of economic missteps and crashes and financial crises, and we have a lot of problems that we wouldn't have if someone intelligent was managing the national economic policy. So I think, we should let him work. We should give it a try. He's put these things in place. They can be lifted. He said he used the word mitigated in his statement. He said that the tariffs can be removed if the conditions are mitigated, which, that's another word saying that there's negotiation room. And I think he'll be negotiating aggressively on behalf of the American people, and we should let him work. So a little short-term interruption or uncertainty, I think, is well worth it for having a good long-term policy.
1,000%. I mean, that's why I say I think there's a strategy behind it. You know, there's a cohesive strategy, one that can work. I think along those lines, whichever path it takes, and I think Trump's allowing a little maneuverability room to see how it all shakes out. Of course, however you draw something up at first isn't usually how it winds up in the end, but he has a basic framework of a plan to restore America, America first, make America great again, restore jobs to Americans, union jobs that have been destroyed mainly by the Democratic Left Party over the past 40 or 50 years of that. He's got a plan in place to bring that back. And what's surprising, well, not surprising to me, I guess you should expect it, but they're going after guys like Howard Lutnick and Peter Navarro. Now there's forces in there trying to get them out of the Trump administration because they've been the ones that have been pretty much out front and pushing these policies. So even Trump's getting pulled a lot of different ways on this. But I'm with you. I trust Trump's judgment on that. Until he fails it, I'm on board, Susan.
Hmm. I agree with you. And you know, there's always a push and pull of these very powerful interests across the country. This is a big, muscular country with big, muscular interests, and they're all in Washington pleading their case. And some of them have a good case, and some of them have had a good ride. Let's just say they've had a good ride for a little too long, and maybe it's time to cut it back some. Some of the union demands have been crazy, and some of these judicial decisions trying to freeze everything in place for the duration of the administration, while endless lawsuits go forward with no end in sight. This is that's not a policy, and Congress is going to have to address that. That's a big problem.
1,000%. The other surprise announcement, more, well, along with Trump, but in our area too, Trump named Bill ESSAYLI the U.S. attorney for the SoCal area out here on that. That kind of caught me a little bit by surprise, although I heard some rumbling, something maybe going on about that. Of that, it's the ultimate to me catch-22 as much because and I first became aware of ESSAYLI first time when I was coming on the radio in 2016 when he ran against Sabrina Cervantes. We had him on the show and stuff, and since that time, and he finally got elected in 22 to the Assembly. I don't think there's anything I've disagreed with him or was worried about. You know, is ESSAYLI doing something up there to hose us all? He's been up front. He came to the Riverside Unified School District over this whole, boys and girls sports stuff, asked for the superintendent, Renee Hill, to resign. That took a lot of guts. He's been up front. He's been a champion, pointing out stuff up there. It's hard to lose him out of the Assembly, but maybe there's greater things or a bigger plan for him. And I'm sure Trump's putting him in here. He's got something Pacific he wants done in California and Southern California Pacific. I think that's why he tapped Bill ESSAYLI to be the U.S. attorney out here, Susan Shelley.
I think you're exactly right. He doesn't make a big deal out of identity politics, but he is a Muslim American, and if he is prosecuting terrorists or he is prosecuting illegal immigrants, they're going to have a hard time saying that this is a Klan meeting, the way the Democrats like to say it. So I think that might have been a factor, but I'm just speculating on that. I have no knowledge. Certainly, he's very well qualified. He used to work in that office, and before he was in private practice, and then in the legislature, he was working in the U.S. Attorney's Office. So I think he's extremely well qualified, and he certainly knows where the bodies are buried in Sacramento. So if he comes back to the state capitol, I hope he brings enough handcuffs for everybody.
Yes, he was a district, and that's about, I think he would just before, he started out as a prosecutor, deputy district attorney out here in Riverside County, and then when he was running there in 2016, he was a U.S. attorney, and he was part of the team that prosecuted the deal in the San Bernardino terrorist attacks back there in 15 and 16. So you're right. He has a lot of credentials on top of that, plus being right on the issues. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm thinking there's some big deals coming up as far as lawsuits. and doing that, and he needs a guy like ESSAYLI, needed a guy like ESSAYLI here in California. What that does is it gives me hope that we can turn the once golden state around, Susan Shelley.
Well, I certainly hope so. I'm sorry to lose him from the assembly and from the effort to do voter ID, because he was very upfront about the need to do the voter ID initiative. I hope that goes forward, even though he can't be a part of it in his current position. That's really important for California, but maybe he can make some progress on voter integrity issues from the U.S. Attorney's Office. That's a possibility. So I'm hopeful that good things are ahead.
I think you're onto something with that. I think that's maybe one of the key components of that. With Trump's recent proposal, same-day voting, paper ballots on federal elections, you know the lawsuits are coming out of California like kazoo, up the kazoo on that. So I think that's another reason why he wanted ESSAYLI in here, especially out here in this area, because they're going to be, they're going to be hit, up the, they're going to be fought. It's a wonder if he hasn't. Rob Bona's got him already teed up over here. So I think that's, and they probably, I mean, I'm sure there is, but he's got to be like in the top 1 or 2 to 3%. I mean, he's got for one thing, he's got the political experience, plus he's got the attorney experience in that, even in that Pacific area of doing it. So like I say, we couldn't have a better fighter in the U.S. Attorney's Office for this fight that's coming up on this election integrity and voting, and we know is coming up, Susan Shelley.
Absolutely. And it, it could be very significant. It's certainly going to be a very different office than it was under whichever U.S. attorney was appointed by Joe Biden. It'll certainly be an improvement over that. So I'm looking forward to seeing law and order restored in America.
See, here's my point on it, or one of the things that I'm thinking. What is about 22 million or so registered voters in the state of California? If we if Trump's proposal goes through, or however they work it out, let's say it gets in, where only U.S. citizens can vote. How many? I'm saying 5 to 6 million people immediately are not going to be able to at least vote in federal elections in California. And I might be light on that number, Susan Shelley.
Well, I don't really know. The illegal immigrant voting, I don't think, is the problem that people say it is. I might be wrong about that, but the driver's license database for illegal immigrants getting driver's licenses is not part of the Secretary of State's database for voter registration. It's separate. Whether it's breached or not, I don't know. But definitely there is a problem with duplicate registrations, with outdated registrations of people who have left the state, people who are non-citizens, who are here legally but are not citizens and can't vote, being registered inadvertently at the DMV. I think there's definitely a big problem with the voter rolls in California. There may be 22 million registered voters. There certainly are not that many ballots turned in. And the question remains, who's turning in all those ballots? Are they the authentic voters, or is somebody doing ballot harvesting at scale and turning these things in strategically to affect the races? This is old-fashioned ballot box stuffing. I'm not talking about something that's high-tech or that involves machines, but just old-fashioned ballot box stuffing. It's not unheard of. We had a lot of laws that were in place to prevent it, and they've all been repealed. And so what prevents it now? Nothing. We really need to clean that up in California, because you can't have confidence in our elections the way we have it currently.
Sure. How many, you can get a driver's license in California. You don't have to be a citizen. But then again, you're almost automatically, and it's darn impossible not to get that, not to sign up for the motor voter deal on that when you're either getting or renewing your driver's license. So how many, I don't know how many, just off of that, without factoring anything else, how many people are not citizens of the United States that have been registered in California? I'm saying millions. I'd almost stake my professional reputation on that, because how could it not be? How many have we done, plus all the other stuff? And then again, that's just very easy, as you point out. I don't think the steal the vote election integrity is so much high tech. I think it's still probably 70, 80, maybe even 90%, just as you explained. Low tech ballot harvesting, stuffing the ballot box, stuff that's went on for hundreds of years, Susan Shelley.
I think so. And, we had these different laws that have consolidated the odd number year elections with the even number year elections. And I really think one of the reasons for that is that they don't want to pay for this ballot harvesting operation every time. They want to pay for it just on the even number years because it's just too expensive. I think there is actually a very big business that's going on in Democratic politics of paying these different groups. In fact, Carl DeMaio uncovered some of it in a program that wanted $25 million for so-called workplace outreach for COVID-19 through 2029. And when they looked into it, they saw that the money was going to left-wing groups. If you went to their website, one of their activities was voter outreach, aka ballot harvesting. So that's money that is supposedly for COVID safety in the workplace being diverted to these non-governmental organizations that are doing ballot harvesting for the Democrats. That's what's really going on. It's not a lot of technology with the software from the voting machine companies, although there might be problems there too. It's actually just old-fashioned Chicago-style machine politics. And it's very effective, and it's really destroying California.
1,000% shifting gears, your column this week, Trump protects America with Venezuela deportations. Susan Shelley.
This is a wild story. The president has invoked a law from 1798, which says that during a war or an invasion or a predatory incursion, the president can declare that the people of the nation conducting this war or invasion or incursion are alien enemies and can be removed immediately as the president directs. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. And the courts are trying to stop him. And it's another one of these things. He's picked this fight, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court is going to have to go through this list of cases and say, well, Trump's right, he's right, he's right, he's right, he's right. I think Donald Trump is trying to give John Roberts a stroke. I really do. I think he's trying to open up the Chief Justice chair. He is just sending him all this stuff that he's not going to want to do, but he has to. Somebody has to.
Oh, it's absolutely fantastic of doing that. We've had this problem of illegal immigration going on for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. And we don't stop it. We had the deal. The 86 deal, they talked Reagan into the amnesty. Oh, we'll do it this time and it'll never happen again. Well, it's happening again times 10, 20, 30, 40. Who could have imagined? You can't, no matter what you do, you can't say it'll never happen again because, as I've said, I've had to eat that word never way too many times. So they're lying through their teeth when they say this stuff. Now we got this mess that especially the Biden administration exploited beyond anybody's wildest imagination. Now we're finally starting to do this, and this sending them to the El Salvador, Venezuela prisons or wherever. I've said this. Why in California, we can't send our criminals down to the prison down there?
Well, this is a situation where this is a specific category of illegal immigrants. It's not everybody who's here illegally. It's the gang members who have been declared foreign terrorist organizations. And one of them is the Venezuelan prison gang Tren de Aragua. And they are being sent to the El Salvador prison because Venezuela won't take them back. So if they're entitled to due process, they're entitled to it in Venezuela. And I believe Venezuela has hired lawyers for them and sent the lawyers to the El Salvador prison to try and get them out, which is fine with us. But President Trump has said they can't stay here. And under the authority of this 18th century law, he is entitled to say that. And it's really quite interesting to see these judges try to stop him when he's really acting within the law. Very interesting.
My point is on this, it's costing us close to $180,000 per year per prisoner in the state prison system. Indiana does it for $40,000 a year. Why can't we send them to Indiana? from California to Indiana. Well, we could probably say, hey, Indiana, you want to house these guys for $60,000 a year? They'd probably say, well, how many of them you want to send over here? We'll take them all. I mean, look at the amount that would probably see. Sheriff Chad comes up and he's saying no income tax like that, and then well, let's come up with a plan of how to do that. And this is one, however it is. You're running on the law enforcement ticket and that, and sheriff and all that. I've been screaming about this at the county, the Riverside County, where sheriff's Chad's a sheriff on of this. Talk to him every once in a while when he shows up, but you've got to have a plan in place of doing this. People don't realize the out of control cost it is for California prisoners. We got almost half we did 10 years ago. We're spending like 50% more per prisoner. That's how stupid. Wow. You want to talk about the bullet train? This is about as stupid as what we've been doing in the prison system here in California, Susan.
Well, is this the labor cost?
Yeah, the cost per prisoner. Yes, in California. Right. We're up to $180,000 a year. 5 years ago, it was ridiculous. Highest in the nation. It was only 85. It's more than doubled in 5 years. That's why I say we're paying more. As Newsom emptied the prisons, we're paying almost half. We're paying more than double what we did in 5 years. It's a travesty that on a comparison of the bullet train.
Yeah. Interestingly, he uses the cost of incarceration as a reason for these decarceration policies, which were rejected by the voters with Prop 36, was it? 36.
Yes.
So the voters were not really interested in hearing his view on how people shouldn't be incarcerated. They want prisoners who are dangerous locked up and kept there. And it's interesting that raising the cost of incarceration intentionally by negotiating these unaffordable, unsustainable labor contracts is giving him an argument to say, well, it's too expensive to keep people in prison, therefore we have to release them, as if that was the only option for public safety. Is you can either bankrupt yourself or you can release them on the street and have them just rob you of everything you own. Those are the two options. No wonder people are leaving California.
100%. And you got to have, it's nice to say these things, but you got to have a plan in place to fix it. That's why I'm saying with Sheriff Chad or anybody who's running for governor, have a plan. This is an easy one. It's so out of control to do. It's an easy one to fix, and you could probably save about $10 billion in the California budget, just like that. Got about a minute left. Tell them why they should join HJTA. Go.
The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is fighting for you, the California taxpayer, in the legislature, in the courts, on the ballot. And you can be a member. It's a member-supported organization for just $15 a year. You strengthen the voice of taxpayers. You strengthen your voice in Sacramento. Happy to have you as a member. Come on and join us, hjta.org.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thank you, Roy.
You got it. Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. Man, oh man. What a ride. We'll get this stuff straightened out. A lot of things on the horizon that are breaking our way. Even the deal with losing ESSAYLI out of the assembly. But it might be even a bigger plus. He's a U.S. attorney for SoCal. Trump's got a plan. I hope he's good at executing it as he has been so far. If he is, it will truly be Liberation Day. As you know, I've been talking about standing up for our country, doing something. These big box stores stayed open while the little guys closed. Will our voices be heard? Does voting with our dollars work? PatriotSwitch.com gives patriots the power to walk away from the big box stores forever. Stop supporting the enemies of freedom now. That's why PatriotSwitch.com was created, for those who support America. PatriotSwitch.com. Is your car doing the hucklebuck and afraid you will be stuck? Well, head on down to Toyota of San Bernardino, Nissan of San Bernardino, Subaru of San Bernardino, and the San Bernardino Auto Mall, and catch a Camry, look ravishing in a Rogue, or be styling in a Subaru. Don't forget I-10 Toyota in Indio for those of you in the lower desert. You deserve to be the happiest human on the planet. So head on down to one of these 4 great dealerships for the car of your dreams. Spread the word. IE Newswire is now on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 p.m. on Rumble and KMET 1490 AM, 5:30 to 6 p.m. Join all the cool kids who want an eclectic look at the news without all the filters of the evil scoundrels of social media and the despicable dorks of the dominant press. Don't bumble and stumble. Subscribe to IE Newswire on Rumble and roll with the best hillbilly hoedown around. That's it. If you want to buy American, go to PatriotSwitch.com. If you need a new Subaru or Toyota, go to one of Cliff Cummings' great dealerships at the San Bernardino Auto Mall at the 10, 2, 15 freeways. Don't forget I-10 Toyota down in the lower desert. Man, what a day. Lots of local news, lots of criminals. That guy in Banning, mentally retarded lady, sexually abused her for 5 years. He pleaded guilty to that. There's some twisted people out there in our area where the Mighty Met broadcasts in. Be careful when you walk outside, Jesse. Man, oh man. But no, there's a lot of good, even as much brickbats as we take, there's a lot of good things happen. Liberation Day. Build on it. We will do it. Failure is not an option, as they say. And when we look back, I'll say it was worth it. That'll do it for today. Usually say it this time. Mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours. Why? We're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.
All right, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Be careful when you're walking outside. There's some creepy people around you.
All right, how do you know that?
Didn't you hear that? Some guy, guy pled guilty. He was sexually abusing a mentally retarded woman for 5 years in Banning.
Oh, Lord, I stopped listening for like 5 minutes and look what happened.
This guy, hey, be careful. You might even have worse characters walking around Banning than Moval.
Oh, probably. All right, I'll talk to you later.
See ya.